for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
All right, guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and as usual, I'm in the WYSL studio with Bob Savage.
Welcome to fall, y'all.
Yep, it's starting to chill down a little bit. The leaves are starting to change colors and all that stuff. What I'm looking forward to is when the leaves change colors. I love going to Letchworth. This was just one of my favorite things.
We were just down in northern Pennsylvania over the weekend, down in the Tioga Dam area, down around Wellsboro, and the leaves are changing down there.
Are they?
In the higher elevations, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, fall has got to be one of the most beautiful times of year. Fall and then, of course, spring when everything's starting to bud. So just an awesome time of year, that's for sure. So, guys, this is Radio Free New York. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what I did over this weekend, and then we're just going to talk about a bunch of little things. I know the show is normally kind of long form, one topic, but today I think we've got a couple little things to run through. First thing I'm going to ask you guys to do, though, is head over to Facebook. Make sure that you're liking and following the page. Click that invite button, share it out to your friends, invite them to like the page as well. Do the same thing with YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. And one of the reasons for that is, guys, if you were subscribed to the YouTube channel and you are following the Facebook page, you'll actually see there was an event this weekend, and we streamed the event live. It's about 13 minutes long, nothing crazy. But what happened was a pretty cool thing. And that is Eric Cooper, who is the vice chairman of the Canandaigua Republican Committee, ended up changing his voter registration over to the Libertarian Party.
Wow.
Yep.
That's big news.
It is big news. It's very big news. And I think probably a surprise to a lot of people. So if you guys want to see what happened at the event, hear about his reasons why he made that change, head over to, the Andrew C. Hollister YouTube channel, click public events. It's right there. And I'll tell you just a little bit about him. I met Eric twice on the campaign trail last year. And, I didn't realize how just, broad his background was until what was going on this weekend. He's president of his local volunteer fire company. I'm going to say formerly vice chair of the city Canandaigua Republican Party. He's the town of Canandaigua planner, founder of the Finger Lakes Hurling Club. I thought it was a typo. I thought it was curling, but apparently hurling is a sport and it's not vomiting. It's something totally different. I had to double check the Facebook page just to be sure on that one. What is
hurling? I got to look this up.
I'm not sure, but he also founded the Rock City Hurling Club. So, it looks like a sport. They're wearing, athletic clothes. I'm not familiar with what it is. Sounds like maybe throwing something. But yeah, so he's doing a lot. He's involved in this community. To be honest, making that change is actually a pretty bold and courageous thing to do because, his position is an appointed position. And, so there could be some uncertainty there for him and his family, making this type of change. Hopefully there wouldn't be, but you just never know with this sort of thing.
Speaking of never knowing, hurling, an Irish game resembling field hockey, played with a shorter stick and a broader oval blade. It's the national game of Ireland. Who knew that?
Okay.
May date back to the second millennium BC.
Really? Wow. Well, there you go. So
I mean, Nancy Pelosi probably remembers when the origins of the game. She and Bernie Sanders.
So he's involved, and what was really cool is at the event, seeing he had family members there who were there to support him as well. Obviously Larry Sharp, who ran for governor last year, he came to the event. I was there. Carrie Bittner, who is a chairwoman of the Ontario County Libertarian Party, was there. Dwayne Whitmer, who's running for Congress, was there. So it was a good event. It was a good event. It was a brisk morning, which was good. You could feel that fall air certainly rolling in. But it was a good event, and you guys should definitely check it out. And if you guys were following the campaign last year, you know that a lot of what Larry and I were talking about was turning your county gold. And, we're starting to see those seeds starting to grow, and take on.
So I'm sorry. So what position do you take? Is he the chairman now of Ontario County's Libertarian Party? Or
no, I'm not sure what he intends to do in terms of.
He's just changed his affiliation.
Changed his affiliation. Which
one would assume he's going to take a leadership role in the party.
I would assume that is his long-term goal. I don't know. Maybe he's going to run for something. I'm not sure. He listed his reasons on the live stream. Why he made that change, why he felt it was right to do that. And I give him just a lot of props, because people are going to see that, and who are on the fence, but maybe worried that maybe they're sitting in an appointed position as well, and think that if they leave their party, they could potentially lose their government job or something like that. They're going to see that and go, hey, he did it, so if he can do it, I can do it. So it's really a very powerful thing, I think, especially sitting as vice chair in the Republican Party. And it doesn't matter if it's the Republican Party or the Democrat Party or what party it is. You hold that position, which is typically an unpaid position, but it's still a position. You've done networking, you've built up certain things. It's just an amazing thing that he looked at all that and said, I know what's right for me. I know what I believe in, and he took that stance. So I've got a lot of respect for him for that. Absolutely. So speaking of party things, I'm going to just give you guys one more event update, and then we're going to go on with the show, because there's some interesting stuff I'm going to share with you guys today. So if you're in or around the Monroe County area, you may be interested in a fundraiser for the Monroe County Libertarian Party. That will be October 1st at 6 p.m. at Mario's Restaurant on Empire Boulevard. For those of you who are thinking Mario's is in Brighton, that one closed down a while ago. I think they're putting a Whole Foods there.
Yes.
Is that, yeah?
It's conspicuous by its absence now. There's nothing there. You'll be surprised if you haven't been by there. You want to go to it's the old Basil's.
It used to be Basil's. Yep, absolutely. Great place. I've been there many times. So we're having a fundraiser there October 1st. 6 p.m. The money that we raise there is going to help expand the libertarian message. It will also help us support our local candidates. We have a bunch of local candidates running in the Libertarian Party this year. We want to make sure that they have the support they need. I've got some goals and dreams I'd like to see happen next year. One of them being that we get enough candidates elected who are willing to fight the law that says you can't carry your concealed carry in the park, even if you're licensed. And so one of the things I've been working on is trying to support candidates who are saying, yeah, you know what, I'll take on this fight. We get enough people in office who are willing to take on that fight. That's some change that we might be able to push through in the next year or two, depending on how many people get elected. So that's just one of the many, many policy changes that we're hoping to see happen. We've got some countywide candidates. We've also got 2 Supreme Court candidates. So, and hopefully they'll be on the show actually a little bit closer to election time. We're going to try to bring some of these people in, let them talk to you, so you guys get to know who these people are, what they stand for, so that you can can make the best decision when you go to the polls. And the Supreme Court candidates, I think they span across 7 counties. So it's a big area. So even if you're not in Monroe County, those candidates, you may very well be in their district. So October 1st at Mario's on Empire Boulevard, 6 p.m. If you want to come, I really recommend you pre-register. The best way to do that is to go to the Monroe County Libertarian Party website. That's monroecounty.lp.com. Once again, monroecounty.lp.com. Click on events, go to the fundraiser. You can buy your tickets right there online. There's a link on Facebook too if you search Monroe County Libertarian Party, but the website is probably the easiest way to do that. So with that being said, that's it for the local party stuff, at least for the county. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about public-funded elections and public-funded campaigns, the possible end of fusion voting in New York State, and if there's time, we're going to talk about some of the ridiculous spending on the MTA down in New York City. We'll be back on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate.
2.5.
Networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York
On the WYSL stations.
All right, Andrew, go ahead. I think you're right. I don't know what's going on, but we're not hearing anything for some reason.
We're back here. We're on the air. Beautiful. All right, guys. So welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I was just looking through the comments on social media, and a couple of people telling us the difference between hurling and curling, or at least that they are not the same thing.
No.
Yeah, which we figured
Not at all.
out. Yep. Nate says he actually got a chance to meet Larry Sharp in Angelica, New York yesterday. So that's awesome. Glad you got a chance to see him. And Roger says he finally gets a chance to tune in. So we're moving along nicely here. Guys, I noticed I labeled this episode, I think, as episode 91, but I'm looking at my notes. this isn't episode 91. This is either 92 or 93. I've got my numbers all miscombobulated. So nothing wrong with that, though. We're going to talk about public funded elections. So what I'm going to read for you is somebody passed along an article to me this morning from Newsday.com, which I'm going to share with you guys. I'm actually just going to read to you this first couple paragraphs here. Actually, I'm going to skip the first one. It's stuff that has... Well, actually, no, I won't. All right, so it says, a centuries-old practice called fusion voting, which has been credited with defeating New York's corrupt Tammany Hall in 1901, is now threatened by the effort to publicly finance campaigns to fight corruption today. The Public Finance Reform Commission was created by Governor Andrew Cuomo and the legislature in April to implement a $100 million system to subsidize political campaigns with public money as a way to curb the influence of big money donors and special interests.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. But
okay, this is coming from Governor Headcase. That's just me, folks. That's not Andrew.
Yeah.
You think it might be suspect? Yeah, I think it is.
I think so. So it goes on to say the commission already faces lawsuits from the left and the right over its order from Cuomo, and the legislative leaders are also considering to also consider the fate of fusion voting. So it'll explain fusion voting. I guess I'll read that part because we're going to talk about it later, so I'll give you a little background. Fusion voting allows minor parties such as the Liberal Working Families Party. It's funny that they put liberal in there. I guess, is Newsday, do they lean a certain way? I'm not familiar with Newsday. Are they?
Newsday, they're really lefty.
Oh, they're really lefty. Huh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that they're calling the Working Families Party liberal is kind of interesting to me.
But where they are, that's a positive.
Yeah, but then they say in the Conservative Party, they don't say the like hard right Conservative Party But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that was inserted there. And the Conservative Party to cross-endorse major party candidates. That practice provides another ballot line to a candidate to attract voters who may not want to vote under the major party banner. Minor parties say this provides voters with another voice and keeps the major parties accountable to more voters. Mm-hmm. So, an interesting thing. So I want to start and I want to tackle first this idea of publicly funded campaigns. And then we'll switch over and we'll talk about the fusion voting as well, because both of those are really good topics. They both relate to the Libertarian Party, which if you guys haven't noticed yet, I kind of like the Libertarian Party. So if you didn't pick up on that, there it is. So first is this idea that we're going to publicly fund elections. That to me is, I don't even know where to start on that because there's so many little things. First is you now have your taxpayer dollars being used to potentially support a candidate that you don't believe in. So I see a problem with that. It basically takes away your freedom of association. You know, government is now forcing you to associate with a specific candidate, whether you want to or not, whether their beliefs align with yours or not. You could have a candidate that has potentially zero support. And I don't know how they would divvy up the money. I'm sure it would be terribly unfair. Like, it could be based on voter registration. It could be based on votes from a previous election. Maybe it's just a straight even divvy up. I don't know. There hasn't been discussion about that. I figure most of the ways are going to be wrong, and probably in New York State specifically, where I live and where this is being proposed, my gut tells me it's going to be terribly, terribly corrupt, and it'll be something along the lines of you only get the money if you got, and then they'll basically make a rule that excludes all parties except for probably the Democratic and the Republican Party, and it will probably give the major party the most funding.
Yeah, think of Cuomo's free college, no taxes if you open a business near a college.
Sure.
And of course, every one of those schemes had to be run by the executive branch individually. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing turned into a patronage scheme. So it would probably be on that model because Andy's a control freak.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I look at this and I see the way government does things, and I would welcome somebody to disagree with me on this, but when you look at what government does, they rarely do things well. The private market almost always outperforms the government. And I've been reminded multiple times that the government does do a few things well, and it does it better than the private market. And the number one thing that the government does better than anyone else in the world is killing people. That's about it.
Killing people followed quickly by spending money,
yes.
Wasting money.
Yep. So those two things. So do I want government to now control what money goes to what candidates? I mean, you're literally talking about giving a regime the power to choose how much money their opponents get to try to defeat them. That to me sounds absolutely ridiculous. Now, of course, they won't spin it that way. They will have some very pleasant spin on it that says something like, no, this guarantees that corporations can't give money to candidates, so there's no corporate interest. Hey, I got news for you. You could fix that with like 2 lines of legislation. It says, if you are not eligible to vote, you cannot give money to a campaign. 1 line. Are corporations eligible to vote? No, they're not people. So therefore, they can't give money to a campaign, plain and simple. That is a really, really simple and easy way to fix that problem without taking $100 million of taxpayer money. We have still a $4 billion deficit in New York right now, I think, something like that. So, now we're talking about another $100 million to just divvy up between the candidates, and the people in charge are going to choose how people qualify for the money and how much money they get. It's I see it as an issue.
I point to the primary process in California, where basically you have all this cross-party voting and endorsing that goes on, and essentially the candidates are selected from this slate of the top 3 vote getters. So guess what?
Yeah.
Because of the registration in California, the Republicans are never on the ballot.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I really do think that the long-term goal of this is going to be that they do it based on either registered voters or amount of votes received in the gubernatorial election. And the reason I say that is they are already talking about trying to change the minimum number of votes you need to get to become a party. They want to change it from 50,000 to 100,000
There
votes.
you go.
So they're already talking about this. They're already trying to figure out, because they're nervous. If you're the Republicans and you're the Democrats, you're very nervous. Actually, if you're the Republicans, you're really nervous. And the reason you're really nervous as the Republicans is because you're seeing people up and leave the party because you're not differentiating from the Democrats at all. But what's worse than that, right now in New York City, the Republicans aren't there fighting at all. It's actually the Republicans, sorry, not the Republicans. It's the Democrats versus the Libertarians in New York City. That's the only battle happening down there. And New York City is what's controlling the state right now. Now, is it a fair fight? Are the Libertarians anywhere near winning? No, not at all. But we've actually started taking seats down in New York City. We already have 1 elected person in New York City. I don't know if there's any elected Republicans in New York City. There may be. But that's the first step. There is we start getting people elected in these local areas. The Republicans and Democrats, they're happy competing only with each other because they can make politics polarizing. You're either on one side or you're on another. But when you have fusion voting, it just kind of allows people to still choose one side or another just under another name. If they eliminate fusion voting, and we're going to get to this in the next section, now you have to stand for something, which means it's not, oh, you're right or you're left. It's not you're red or you're blue. It's these are your principles. and these aren't. Now you have competition. And when you have competition, you're forced to get better. You're forced to become less corrupt. You can't keep rewarding your cronies. You know, all of these things are an issue to those two major parties, especially in New York State. In New York State, I mean, I haven't seen somebody get arrested so recently, but it seems to be every 3 to 6 months, another official is either being arrested, under investigation, being indicted for something. And it all centers around corruption from when they were in office.
And they never go to jail. Isn't that the funniest thing?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting how that happens, or how that doesn't happen, how just the rules don't apply to elected officials in New York State. But for you or I mean, the smallest little thing we'll get in trouble for. All right, guys, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we're going to talk a bit more about fusion voting, why it might come to an end in New York, and why that could be so bad for the two major parties. We'll be back on Radio Free New York.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol service.
Yeah, I was just checking the transmitter room.
Open daily. Avon Gun, East Main Street, between the Bank of Castile and Charlotte's Web of Odds and Ends.
Your business
Last spot.
computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about publicly funded elections and the potential end of fusion voting in New York State.
Both bad ideas.
Yeah. Well, I see two sides of fusion voting. I'm going to talk about each of them because I haven't totally made up my mind which is the better one yet. But I'll give you guys a brief recap if you're just joining us here on the show. Publicly funded elections, Governor Cuomo's commission, I forget, they always have some fancy name for the Public Finance Reform Commission, is talking about setting aside or creating a budget for $100 million of public money to contribute to campaigns. And the idea is that that money would replace private donors, individuals like you and myself, who see a candidate, we believe in what they stand for, we believe in their principles, and we want to give them some of our hard-earned, already taxed multiple times money to help support them in making the changes that we believe in.
So that decision is going to be placed in the hands of politicians.
Yes.
It will be taken from us. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I trust the government. Do you trust the government? I mean, they're just great people. They do such a good job.
Trust them to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. Please, if you're listening to the show and you heard that statement, I hope you also heard the sarcasm in my voice. We'll end up in a soundbite somewhere, I'm sure. So I see a big issue with this, and part of it is your freedom of association, right, which is your First Amendment right. They're talking about literally taking money out of your paycheck that you worked for and potentially using that money to support a candidate that you do not support at all, and you don't believe in their principles.
Just think of it as a whole new tax.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll find a way. There will be a tax for this. I mean, there will absolutely be a tax for this. It's just a question of where do they sneak it in? Is it going to be in your income tax? Is it going to be stuck, in a corporate tax, a payroll tax, some form of voter tax? It will be there. You will pay for it. We just don't know how, we're going to pay for it. But they're talking about $100 million. So $100 million.
The first election. Then the next election, it'll be 2.25.
Yeah, because they will, or they'll be like the city school district, which we're definitely not going to have a chance to get to today. But we just found out we spent $50 million more than was in our budget this year.
And we didn't notice a thing until just now.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh.
So just get ready for the hurricane and windfall of all the corruption associated with that, all the mistakes made, and all of the unfair disadvantages that are going to be given specifically to candidates who are part of the current regime, I guess is the best way to explain it. So that's that piece. Now we'll talk a little bit about fusion voting, because this is on the table and appears to be being discussed by the same commission. And I got to tell you what, I've heard from a few people in Board of Elections who are really good people who tend to have the inside scoop, and they're usually right every time they tell me something. They say fusion voting is going away in New York. That's what they said. They said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We think it's going to happen soon. The people, whoever has already met about it, those deals have already been made. It's going to happen. Though that's what I'm hearing, amongst the little whispers. And like I said, usually ends up being true. So I'm just going to say it's a rumor right now, but the probability is pretty good. So what is fusion voting? Fusion voting is the idea that you could be a candidate. We'll start with the Republicans. You're a Republican candidate. You also get endorsed by the Conservative Party. And when your name shows up on the ballot, there's a line for Republican and your name's there. A little bit further down, there's a line for Conservative and your name is also there. If you were, say, a Democrat candidate, your name would show up on the Democrat line. And if you got endorsed by, say, Working Families Party, your name would also show up a little further down the ballot on the Working Families Party line. So that's what fusion voting is, the idea that one candidate can be endorsed by multiple parties and show up on the ballot for multiple parties. Now, why do politicians like this? Some of them will just flat out tell you that the reason they like it is they think the more times their name shows up on the ballot, the more people think they must be good for the job, and therefore that's how they get their votes.
Is that true?
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if anybody's actually done a study on that or not to see, but I would say human psychology would suggest that it's true. That if you were to look at something and say, it looks like this person has more support, you may subconsciously think that they're better qualified, or you may just subconsciously think that because they have more support, they're going to win and you want to be on the winning team, so you vote that way. I mean, any of those are possible. I don't know if any of that has ever been proven true or not. But it's certainly a way some people think, and it's a strategy people follow.
Well, if Andrew Cuomo wants to do away with it, then that suggests to me there might be something to that.
It could be. It could very well be. I also think, though, that the real reason that Cuomo wants to get rid of it is because he doesn't like competition. You saw what happened in this last election with Cynthia Nixon. I mean, a coup rose up from the is it the Working Families Party? Wow, I can't even remember now. It wasn't the Independents. It must have been the Working Families.
I don't know if it was that. I think it might have been some other line that they cooked up, some other party.
I can't believe I don't.
I'll look it up while you.
I can't believe I don't remember this. It's slipping my mind. It's a little embarrassing. But yeah, so when Cuomo saw that, I mean, that built up traction against his campaign, and theoretically, there could have been another potentially viable candidate. Now, not viable in my eyes, but viable in the eyes of people in New York City. A candidate could have popped up and actually split Cuomo's vote because she was better on certain issues than he was in the eyes of those voters. So that was probably a scary thing. So Cuomo crushed that coup, and now they're like, crap, we need to figure out what we're going to do. To be honest, I think the other thing that they've got their eyes on is the Conservative Party in New York State, because the Conservative Party very rarely, if ever, runs their own candidates. They almost exclusively endorse Republican candidates. They do have some other candidates that they endorse. They have endorsed some other parties, but it's pretty rare, and I don't believe that they've ran any candidates strictly conservative for a long time. There might have been like a small town or village race where that's true. Nothing that I'm aware of, but I'm sure it's happened, but it's not prevalent. So, and if you were to look at the gubernatorial elections, which drives your ability to retain your party, that would mean that for the Conservative Party to survive in New York State, they have to run their own conservative candidate against the Republicans this next election. And I think Cuomo would love to see that happen.
Yeah, and you were right. She lost, of course, obviously the primary for the Democrat nod.
Yep.
So then she ran against Cuomo, the Working Families Party.
Yeah, and I think they did something to get her off the ballot by the end, right? I think normally, so what you guys probably don't know, and this is just a little bit Board of Elections education for you guys. Hopefully I'm not putting you to sleep here. But once you're a candidate on the ballot, you can't be taken off the ballot. There's only 3 instances where you can be taken off the ballot. There is you die, which is not a pleasant option. You move out of state or out of the district. And I think the third option is you essentially write a letter requesting to be withdrawn from the ballot. I think those are the only 3 ways that can happen in New York State Board of Election law. So I think if memory serves me right, I think that last minute she withdrew and Cuomo filled in that spot on the ballot. Is that right? Is that showing up there? Yeah. And you got to wonder what the deal was for that. Because somebody didn't go, oh, I worked real hard, I got this nomination. Out of the goodness of my heart, my dear opponent, you know what? I'm going to withdraw and give you my slot on the ballot. That doesn't happen. Well, maybe it's happened once or twice. I don't think it's happened in this instance, though. Not in New York State. Something else was happened. I'm sure it started with Cuomo telling the Working Families Party that they will not exist if they don't get her to make that change. And who knows what else happened along the way.
That's how he rolls.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So we're talking about fusion voting. We're talking about the fact that it may go away. It could even be this year.
Or from what you hear, it's likely to go away.
Yeah, I suspect it will. Just from what I'm hearing people say, I think it's gone. Maybe as early as next year's election. I think this year they can't do anything about this year, but next year's election it may very well be gone. Definitely by the next gubernatorial election. Definitely by that, because that would be the opportunity. Parties like Working Families, parties like Independents, parties like Conservative, they're going to have to run their own candidates against the parties they normally cross-endorse for. Now, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, they always run their own candidates. So it's actually less of an issue for them. It's a bigger issue for those other three, independents, conservative, and working families. They may not make it. I mean, that's just a possibility. And I hear a lot of people talking about the fact that these parties might not exist once this happens. They've got a shelf life now, which I'm sure Cuomo would love to scoop up those voters. And not just Cuomo. I mean, clearly there's legislators behind this who think this is a good idea, and they're just kind of salivating at the idea of like locking in their support. But I tell you what, I don't know that it's going to turn out that way for them. I don't think those people are going to just jump ship into a major party. In fact, I think it's going to give them more reason to get involved with a third party, create their own, or join an existing one. So when we come back from the break, I'll tell you guys what my thoughts are on that and what I think would happen if fusion voting does go away in New York State.
Radio Free New York. Be sure to let your local affiliate know you appreciate their carrying the program, and we'll be back.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Fiorella, a family-owned farm-to-table Italian restaurant with casual atmosphere at the newly renovated Rochester Public Market. Fiorella offers wood-fired, old-world-style pizza with naturally leavened dough, house-made fresh pasta, desserts, and gelato. Enjoy craft beers, imported Italian and New York State wines. Open Wednesday through Saturday for lunch and dinner. Wednesday evenings enjoy no corkage fee, and Thursday is gnocchi night. Call 434-5705 for reservations. View the menu on the web. restaurantfiorella.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business
They expect
relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, guys, we're back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about fusion voting in New York State and how that's likely to go away, what the repercussions are, why it's happening, that sort of thing. And I want to get it right out of the way that I see a similar argument against the elimination of fusion voting that I also see against publicly funded elections. And that is the idea of freedom of association.
Get government out of the business of elections. Elections are supposed to be for us, guys.
Yep.
See, this is the way that we pick you to represent us.
Yeah.
So if you get involved in the process, it's like the butcher putting his thumb on the scale.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's an issue. So fusion voting is one of those things that actually there's a fair split. Some people really dislike it, and some people really think it's important. So I'll give you both sides of that story. The people who dislike it, and I don't necessarily disagree with them, by the way, on this, is when you have a candidate endorsed by multiple parties, the lines begin to blur as to what that candidate's principles actually are. What do they really stand for? You know, if you're a candidate endorsed by 3, 4, 5 parties, what does that candidate stand for? And I would say even you could look at some of these town elections where the sheriff was endorsed by the Republican and the Democrat Party. And people say, wow, it must be a really good sheriff. And I bet you he is. I bet you he's a really likable guy. I bet you the town or the village, or actually sheriff would be county. But I bet you people really like him. But the question is, what are his values? Is he progressive? Is he conservative? Is he liberal? Is he right-leaning? Is he a libertarian? Is he a Green Party? Like, who? You know, where do those values align?
Depends on, you know, obviously what the parties that he's endorsed by, what they believe, right?
Well, sure, but if there's conflicting principles, which there are in basically every party, right? I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be separate parties. For the voter, those principles, it becomes blurry, you know, and it becomes a branding scheme and name recognition is really what it becomes. So I understand that is actually, I think, a very valid argument against fusion voting. The other argument I hear, and I also agree with, is it really just strengthens the two major parties, because the small parties really just kind of fall in line underneath them and just folds it in. It doesn't really give the competition that we want to see to force candidates to be better. So those are like arguments against fusion voting, you know, forcing candidates to have to choose just one line. Now, the argument for it is freedom of association, which is what we talked about on the other subject, where a candidate has the freedom to associate with other parties and other principles and other values. And I see that side of the argument too as well. I'm not saying it's invalid at all. I'm just saying that there are good arguments on both sides, for and against. My personal belief is that if we eliminate, and I'm using the term if, but I think it's a high probability and very likely that fusion voting will be gone by the next gubernatorial election. So it leaves us 3 years.
Okay, so the manifestation of that will be what?
So my thought is that now you have at least 3, if not 4, what you would call minor parties that have been playing with the big boys, now have to scramble and decide, do they have the resources available to them? Have they actually taught their voters how to vote for them? My guess is no to both of those questions, to survive this next cycle of gubernatorial elections.
So how is this going to manifest itself in the voting booth? They're not going to be on the ballot. You'll have to write those candidates in. So
in this upcoming gubernatorial, since they made it last time, they would be able to have candidates on the ballot, but if they don't hit that 50,000, which is easy for, say, let's call it the Democratic Party and the Working Families Party and the Independence Party. You know, they endorse Cuomo. And then Independence Party endorsed Cuomo. And Working Families Party endorsed Cuomo. Well, it's really easy for somebody to be like, you know, I don't like Cuomo. I don't even really like the Democrats. But you know what? I also don't like Trump. I'm really scared of that guy, so I can't vote for the Republican. You know what I will do? I'm going to vote for Cuomo, but I'm going to do it on the independence line, because for some reason that gives them a better moral feeling at the end of the day. I can't explain that, but that's how they feel.
A vote for Cuomo is a vote for Cuomo, people.
Exactly. But it happens on the Republican and conservative line as well, and previously Reform Party, where somebody goes, yeah, you know what? I really don't like Cuomo. I can't vote for that guy. I feel like the Republican Party has been weak on basically everything that they should stand for. So I don't want to vote for the Republican on the Republican line. But you know what? I feel like I'm a conservative. I'm going to vote for the Republican on the conservative line to teach them a lesson. Which when you say it out loud and you hear it, you're like, wow, that's so broken. That's so wrong. But that's literally what's been happening for decades.
That's as bad as I'm going to teach them a lesson by not voting.
Yeah. So that's the situation we're in. So I think this next election, which is going to be 2022, if the Conservative Party wants to stay afloat, if the Working Families Party, the Independence Party, they will now have to run candidates against the Republicans, against the Democrats. And they're going to have to, like the voter who's used to just going in there and voting conservative when they see it matches the Republican's name, is going to have to sit there and go, crap. What's the difference between a Republican and a conservative?
Yeah,
Which
really.
one of these guys do I vote for? And same thing, the Democrats are going to have to go, Independence Party, Working Families Party, Democrat Party. Crap. What do any of these guys stand for? I have no idea. Who do I vote for? I think it's going to be a huge issue. I think we lose probably two of the parties, I think. I'm not sure who's going to be lost, who's going to stay. My gut tells me that Working Families and Conservative Party no longer exist after 2022. And I know that's hard for some people to hear, unless they start that process now. Their best chance of survival is to start running their own candidates and not cross-endorsing with Republicans and Democrats now. That's the only way that they're going to survive.
But they had to get to that threshold, though.
Exactly. Why they got to start now.
That's not easily done.
No, it's not. It's a lot of hard work. And for some of them, that's a lot of re-educating of your voters. That's a lot of resources. That's a lot of reaching out to people. It's a big deal.
Yeah, tell us about your experience getting to 50,000.
It was a hard thing to do, let me tell you. I mean, we hit 62 counties. We were working basically full time, to do that. And even then, after all of that, it didn't yield what you would hope. Now, I actually think that long-term eliminating fusion voting in New York State will probably create good competition in New York State that actually hurts the Democratic Party long-term. I do believe that that'll happen.
Why just the Democrats?
Well, because the Republicans are already beaten and on the ground and not doing well. So it's not like, hurting them is... They'll feel the pain in some local elections, but they haven't held a statewide office in 2 decades. So the Democrats have really seized the power. I believe elimination of fusion voting, when Working Families steps up and they throw up a candidate who's super progressive, and then Independence throws up maybe a moderate-ish Democrat candidate, and then you've got King Cuomo sitting there. I think the voters going to have to sit there and go, oh, you know what? Cuomo doesn't actually meet and match my values, and I don't actually have to worry about the Republicans so much because there's still no chance they're going to win. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that bluff much longer that the Republicans have a chance in New York. So I think what that does is that actually evens things out a little bit. It starts to shrink the major parties where you start to have competition. And on the statewide, people might be nervous about that and think, oh, it's going to be a bunch of vote splitting. That might actually happen, but
it will disproportionately affect the Democrats.
Yes, because they have the largest amount to lose. Absolutely. So Democrats have the most to lose because they have the most. That's pretty simple. But I think where we see the real win is local elections, because now you could have a 6-way race in your local town. And it's not just based off of, well, my family was Republican for 50 years, so I'm voting Republican. Now it's, well, I've got a Republican and a conservative and a libertarian all running against each other. And wow, now I have to look at the actual values. I have to decide who's going to govern me best. And that's where I think that once fusion voting ends in New York, it's not going to happen right away. I figure 2 election cycles. And so by basically 2028,
So it'll end, but it won't manifest
26th.
itself for a couple cycles.
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an overnight thing. I think the voters are going to be very confused. I think there's going to be a lot of wound licking. I think there's going to be a lot of that. But then I think we start to see the opportunity of competition in the market of campaigins, essentially.
Andy, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if it plays out that way. I could be totally wrong. I have no crystal ball, but I suspect that it's going to go that way because humans are very set in their ways.
Habitual.
They don't like change. So the minute something changes like this, there's going to be a lot of confusion. There's really no voter education in New York State, which makes this a problem for them. So that's what I think. That's what I think about fusion voting in New York. I think long term it's going to be a good thing. I see arguments for and against it. And we'll see what happens. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here on Radio Free New York. I will catch you guys on Friday.